It's true that any mysterious story loses all its charm when scientists reveal the truth. The royal intrigues of the past centuries can be solved with the help of modern technology, and fairy tales can be explained with the help of science. And now, we'll see how it happens. There is a state called Baden in southwestern Germany. Until the 20th century, it was a sovereign state. We're not going to study its history now, but let's look at an interesting case that occurred there in the 19th century. At that time, Baden was ruled by Grand Duke Karl and Grand Duchess Stephanie. On September 29, 1812, the Duchess gave birth to a son, the future heir. But unfortunately, he passed away 18 days later. A terribly sad story that spawned many rumors about the unnamed heir. People whispered among each other that an unrelated grandmother, Countess Louise Caroline von Hochberg, had replaced the heir with another kid and that the real prince was hidden from everyone in an unknown place. But why would Louise Caroline do this? Because Stephanie could no longer give birth to an heir, and one of Louise Caroline's son could get the throne. Whoa! Wow. Royal intrigues like a TV series. Yeah, being a little prince at that time was quite dangerous. Okay, Duke Karl's heir passed away or was hidden. It's unknown. Almost 16 years had passed since then, and everyone had forgotten about him. But then, out of nowhere, a mysterious guy, about 16 years old, appeared on the streets of the place that is now Nuremberg. He was just wandering around the town square. He had no documents, no money, no food. He was exhausted, wore dirty clothes, and looked hungry. He hardly spoke because of a lack of strength and could hardly write his name, Kaspar Hauser, and in his hand he was clutching an unsigned letter. According to the contents of the letter and the guy's words, he spent all his life in a cramped, dark dungeon from which he never came out. All this time, he was fed and cared for by an unknown benefactor. The guy had never seen their face and didn't know who they were. After that, suddenly, he found himself in the center of the city. Rumors began to spread around the city that this was the heir from Baden, the real one that was replaced. People really believed that he was the missing prince from the past and looked for evidence confirming their theory. However, there was nothing but rumors about this. The guy had to wait almost 200 years before the technology that could determine his identity appeared. In the mid-1990s, genetic data showed that Kaspar Hauser didn't belong to the Baden line. But then those tests were disproved. In general, a long series of investigations began to determine the DNA of the mysterious guy. And only recently, scientists have finally been able to put an end to this issue. They used the technology that helped study Neanderthal DNA fragments. The new method showed more accurate results. And yes, it turned out that Kaspar Hauser's DNA didn't match the genetic code of the members of the Baden family. Scientists are confident that new technologies for analyzing genetic material will help decipher other historical mysteries. But who was this Kaspar Hauser? Scientists don't know. It's not even known which way to look to determine his genealogy. Now it's time for a creepy story. Listen carefully to these words. We are inhabitants of the land of Saint Martin, who is regarded with peculiar veneration in the country which gave us birth. The sun does not rise upon our countrymen. Our land is little cheered by its beams. We are contented with that twilight which, among you, precedes the sunrise or follows the sunset. Moreover, a certain luminous country is seen, not far distant from ours, and divided from it by a very considerable river. It sounds like some kind of a letter from an unknown fairy tale, right? Do you know who said that? A young brother and sister who appeared out of nowhere in a small English village in the 12th century. But the strangest thing was that the skin of these guys was green. Some people think it's true. Others are sure it's just a fairy tale. But in any case, it's a pretty strange story. The story of the Green Children of Woolpit. This event took place during the reign of King Stephen in the middle of the 12th century on the territory of the ancient village of Woolpit. In Old English, it sounded like wolf pit, a pit for catching wolves. In 1150, not far from this pit, a group of locals found two little kids, a boy and a girl with green skin. They couldn't explain who they were or where they came from because they spoke with a strange, unknown language. They looked nervous and scared. People brought them to the house of Sir Richard de Calne. The nobleman gave food to his young guests, but they refused to eat, despite the fact that they looked very hungry. They muttered strange words and barely spoke to Sir Richard. This went on for several days, but then they saw green beans in the garden and began to eat them greedily right out of the ground. Which one of you would consider this picture creepy enough? Seriously, it looks like a scene from a horror movie. A green boy and a girl found at a wolf pit eating beans with their bare hands right out of the ground. According to the canon of the genre, more terrible events should happen next. Livestock get sick, vegetables and fruits rot. A mysterious voice whispers in the halls, mold grows on the ceiling, and an unknown sticky liquid seeps through the walls. Ooh, what if these kids would summon some monster and drag Sir Richard into the underworld? Fortunately, none of this happened. Richard treated the kids with love and within several years taught them to eat regular food. And if you believe the records of that time, this affected their skin color. They lost their green hue and became healthier. In addition, Richard taught them to speak English, and when he questioned them about what had happened to them, they said they didn't know how they got to the village. They told him this: "We only remember that on a certain day, when we were feeding our father's flocks in the field, we heard a great sound, such as we are now accustomed to hearing at St. Edmund's, when the bells are chiming. And while listening to the sound in admiration, we became on a sudden, as it were, entered, and found ourselves among you in the fields where you were reaping." You have already heard the rest of their words at the beginning of this story. It was pretty creepy. So Richard took the kids to the nearest church. No one could figure out where these kids had come from. For many years, the girl worked for Richard and then got married. Her brother, unfortunately, passed away. Almost 1,000 years have passed since these strange events, but it seems that scientists finally know the secret of the green children of Woolpit. At that time, the king was persecuting Flemish immigrants in England. Some of them probably hid near the village of Woolpit, where they raised their kids. A lack of food could have caused the green color of their skin. When they returned to a normal diet, their skin became normal. By the way, certain foods can have too much influences on how you look. For example, if you eat carrots for a long time, then your skin will have a yellowish tinge. If that brother and sister ate green beans daily, this could trigger the production of a certain green pigment. Okay, this mystery is more or less clear. But what about their unknown language? Most likely, they spoke like their parents, that is, in their native Flemish language. That's why the villagers couldn't understand them. And that strange story about the place where they lived can be explained by a rich imagination. But honestly, it would be cool if there was something really magical in this story. Don't you think? That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.